I don't know about you guys, but I got pretty pumped at Hank earlier as we started this meeting about the energy, the vibrancy that we have in our city right now, and much of that is attributed to our governor. And so the reason why is because he's had a certain number of things these last now, I guess, 5 or 6 years. He's been a positive disruptor. When you think about his ability to have a great sense of economic development and economic effectiveness, but not only that, he has shown a spirit of excellence in his day-to-day operations here in our city. But he's also had a laser focus on efficiency and how we improve as a state government, which dovetails nicely to each city across this entire state. So we're grateful for this 46th governor, being someone who has served the governor for quite some time. I can tell you that Governor Hutchinson will go down in the books as one of the greatest governors. Of course, one of the fellow governors that I served as well. And so one of the great things about Governor Hutchinson is his ability to connect with people. No matter whether you disagree with him or not, you walk away understanding his innate ability to connect, but his heart. And when you have a leader with the type of heart that he's had, you have nothing but compassion and respect for the state and our state's leader. And so I'm very excited to introduce to you someone who's had the steady hand of Moses in great times. I'm preaching right now. Hold on. Not only has he had the steady hand of Moses, but he's also had the leadership ability of Joshua. But most importantly, he's had the fiscal stewardship of Joseph. I present to you Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Thank you, everyone, but particularly thank you to Mayor Scott for the introduction. Yes, I'd like to take you across Arkansas and you give that same speech. You know, I like Moses and Joseph better than what I heard earlier about chicanery. I think that was a connection to political leadership. I have to look that up. But the mayor's success is important to me. His success as the leader here in Little Rock is important to the state of Arkansas because Little Rock's success means success for the state. And so we want Little Rock to succeed in economic development, in leadership, and in education, and in all of the responsibilities that you have. And so, Mayor, you're doing that, and I want to tell everybody that you helped us a great deal whenever we recruited CZ that brings 600 jobs to Little Rock. I'll never forget, he just got elected, and we had to have him at the dinner because we were trying to close the deal. And he was there, and I'd never seen him in that environment. Let me just tell you, he was a star. He handled himself just the right way. We were able to close that deal. So thank you, Mayor, for your support. Now, for everyone here, I see Dr. Anderson out there. I just went to the Nanotechnology Center at UALR that you first brought me to. It's doing well. Very proud of the research that's going on at UALR. You know, if you look at my background, one of the interesting things that I got to do in my life was when President Bush asked me to join his administration. I went to the DEA 1 month before the 9/11 attack occurred. And so I was right in the hot spot. Then he asked me to go over to Homeland Security and to set up the largest government reorganization since the Pentagon was created 50 years ago. And so I'm there on the first day of the job at Homeland Security. You got to think about my background. I'm a lawyer, I was in Congress, I was a federal prosecutor. And so I'm at Homeland Security, and the first thing that happens when I sit down there is that my operations chief came to me and said, "Mr. Secretary, a plane has just been hijacked in Cuba and is headed toward the shores of the United States. We don't know whether it has hostile intent or not. What action should we take?" And I'm saying, I have no clue. You know, I'm not prepared for this question. And I tell you that story because I've spent my life learning. I spent my life learning how to handle situations you're not always prepared for. And I tell that story too because it's a little bit like being governor. Whenever I woke up earlier in the year, I didn't anticipate, I guess 2 months ago, I didn't anticipate the call from the district engineer from the Corps of Engineers in Tulsa that said, we're releasing water and it's coming your direction. And it'll be in record amounts. And he started talking about what's needed perhaps in a mandatory evacuation. And so my life as governor is interesting. Every day there's something different, which challenges me, which I enjoy a great deal. But there's a lot of good news in it as well. And if you look at the state of Arkansas right now, the fact that we just closed out our fiscal year and we had a $295 million surplus, that means our economy is doing well. And not only did we have a $295 million surplus, we are setting aside money, and our long-term savings account is now up to $150 million. This is after we have lowered taxes consistently and we raised teacher pay in Arkansas. And we now, and so how does this happen? I think it happens because we have more efficient spending. And that's an important qualification, efficient spending, because we have not reduced, we've increased our investment in education. We're continuing to put more money in public safety. We're trying to do it smartly, and we're continuing to support Medicaid and health care in Arkansas, but to do it in a way that's more efficient, and that's part of the transformation that we did yesterday with trying to make state government more reliable, more efficient, more customer-friendly, and more responsive to leadership. So it's been about more efficient spending, but it's also about growing our economy. Today, we have more people paying taxes than we did 5 years ago. And that helps us because we're creating jobs, and we've created over 90,000 jobs in Arkansas over the last 5 years. We have rising wages in the state, and we have a 3.6% unemployment rate in Arkansas, which is one of the lowest unemployment rates in the history of our state. People are working. But when I mentioned that long-term savings account of $150 million, as you know in your family budget, if you're going to save, saving has to be intentional. It doesn't happen by accident. It takes an intentional and purposeful method to creating those savings. And so we transferred $100 million over to a long-term savings account to give it the seed money, but every month we transfer money into our long-term savings account. And over time, that builds up. Our savings is intentional, and the reason we want to have a surplus, the reason that we want to have savings, is because we don't know what the economy is going to do down the road. We don't know when there's going to be a downturn, and we want to be able to continue to support education and to invest in it. We don't want to have to curtail that because we have an economic downturn. And so those surpluses are important. It allows us to budget carefully. It allows us to invest appropriately. And whenever it comes to investing in education, I am delighted that because of our plan to increase the minimum teacher salary in Arkansas through this last legislative session, we not only increased it by $4,000 over 4 years, but we also put aside $60 million to help school districts meet that obligation whenever they had a challenge. But as a result of this plan, the Little Rock School District teachers will receive a $1,135 increase in next year's school salary. Thank you, Superintendent Core, for leading that applause over there. But I'll also note that while we have challenges in the Little Rock School District, and we do, we have challenges, we have more work to do, but I'm delighted with the improved graduation rates that we see. In 2015, the graduation rate, those that graduated from high school on time, it was at 73.6%. That was in 2015. Today, it has moved up to 82.3%. That is a significant growth and success story in the percent of those that are graduating from high school. If you look at the African American population and student body, it was at 71% graduation rate, and now it is at 82%. So we're making progress in that category across the board. I'm also proud of the Little Rock School District because they are participating in my computer science initiative. And they're helping to lead the way in that regard. And by the way, we just had a national summit here in Arkansas, in Little Rock, with 30 states coming to Little Rock to see what Arkansas is doing about computer science and why we're leading the nation in computer science education. You had North Carolina school superintendent said, Governor, we're just going to take your plan and we're going to adopt it in North Carolina. We got to stay ahead. We want to stay ahead of these other states. But in Little Rock School District in 2015, we had 179 students taking computer science. Today, we have 551. That is over a 300% increase in our students that is taking computer coding in the Little Rock School Districts, and I'm proud of that. But all of the success that we have hinges upon consistent economic growth in our state. Because if our economy is growing, then we're going to have more money for education. We're going to have more money for public safety. We're going to have sufficient funds to build our highways. It's about growing our economy. In addition, though, each one of you represents some business here in Arkansas, and whether you are a small business person or a manufacturer, if you've got a growing economy, your business is good. And that's what we want to see. And so I recognize the importance of that economic growth in our state. And let me just go through about 5 different keys to economic growth that I see for the future of Arkansas. First of all, we've got to maintain and expand the diversity of our economy in this state. Our leading industry in Arkansas is agriculture. Strong, it is important. Of course, when we see it challenged by the flooding and the breach of our levee system, it reinforces the importance of the levee task force that I just appointed with 25 good citizens from across Arkansas that will help us to determine how we can better shore up our levees, how we can bring them up to Corps of Engineers standards so they will help cover the cost whenever they're breached. I've put it across with support of the legislature $10 million as a start to support our levee system in this state that is so important to Arkansas agriculture. Our second leading industry is tourism. Jim Daly right here, keep up the good work because tourism is growing in Arkansas. And people like to come to this state. They like to come from Texas. They like to come from Missouri. I just got a text this last weekend from the governor of Nebraska, Pete Ricketts, a great guy, and he was vacationing in Arkansas. He was a tourism here, spending dollars. He wanted me to know that. And so our tourism brings people here, and that's why it is so important that we give people confidence. And it was the right thing to do to work with the farmers who did nothing wrong with the C&H hog farm within the Buffalo River watershed. The farmer did nothing wrong, but it was jeopardizing public confidence in the Buffalo River watershed and its protection. And so the state did the right thing by saying we're going to use private dollars and state dollars to pay the farmer out so that we can close down the C&H hog farm. This will be a good protection and assurance that we're going to have a pristine natural state for those people that come here and spend their money and invest in Arkansas. The second key, well, I said the diversity is the first one, agriculture, tourism, but it's manufacturing that's growing. It is the medical services that's so strong in central Arkansas, but we're trying to add technology to the mix of our economic strength in this state, and we're doing it. From the Venture Center here in Little Rock to those startup companies and the accelerator funds that we're devoting to helping technology companies that will start here and build their future here, and is growing from Matova to Apogee to the financial sector that is bringing in top talent from across the globe right here to Little Rock. We want to be able to capture some of those companies. And that will help us to give even additional strength in the diversity of our economy. The second key ingredient is tax competitiveness, and it's important that I continue to reinforce this. People say, well, why did you raise teacher salaries that cost us money but lower taxes? And the answer is it helps us to drive our economy. Whenever we put more money in individuals' pocket so that they can make their own decisions, whenever we can be more competitive with Texas and with Mississippi and with our surrounding states in terms of our tax structure, then we will recruit more industry here. And I've become a stronger and stronger believer in that because there's been times that we had an industrial opportunity to recruit a company here, and they looked at the tax structure and they would say it might cost us $400,000 more a year to locate in Arkansas. And so we have to overcome that. We have to be competitive, and we're working toward that. So this last session, we reduced the individual income tax rate from 6.9% down to 5.9% over the next 2 years. So your individual tax rates will go down. It will help us to be competitive. The third key is that we have to be a part of the global marketplace. Arkansas is, it always has been, and it will be a part of our future, and I tell the President that every chance I get. And that is that we're dependent upon our agricultural production and our sales overseas because we are a producing state. It is about Dassault Falcon Jet right here in Little Rock, that everyone who buys a Falcon Jet anywhere in the world comes here and picks it up, but it is the ability to move product across the ocean and back without the fear of tariffs slowing down that trade. And so we've got to be able to be competitive in our tax rate, but also to be able to continue to support that global marketplace that is so critical to us. And that is why we need the Congress of the United States to affirm and ratify the USMCA, the new NAFTA agreement, so that we can be assured of consistency in our trade with Mexico and Canada. And then we need to be able to seal a deal with China that is fair, that protects intellectual property rights. But we have to have these low tariffs in place so that we can utilize the global marketplace to our advantage. Low tariffs, transparency, and stability is key in our tariff negotiation. The fourth critical element of economic growth is my job, and that is recruitment. It is what we do in selling the state of Arkansas, whether it is in New York or California, or whether it is across the ocean, as we just went to the Paris Air Show to support the aero defense industry in Arkansas. And so recruitment is something I believe in. And that's why I go and I meet with industrial prospects. And if you look at the Paris Air Show, and sometimes they have it in England, but in this air show, there were 10 governors that were there. And they were governors of states that support the aero defense industry. And if the governor of Arkansas is not there, then you've got another governor gobbling up our business. You've got to be there to compete, to market the state, and to support the industry that we already have. It's really a great occasion right there in France to bring all the Arkansas French-owned companies together and have breakfast with them and say, as governor, we're here on your territory. What can we need to do to support you in expanding here in Arkansas? That's the kind of marketing we do. Went to a few other places and called. I won't go on those because they're prospects, but we did go and see the new customer here in Arkansas, CZ, 4 hours out of Prague, and a great company. By the way, the Czech Republic has the lowest unemployment rate in the EU, 2.2%. They believe in working there, and that's the kind of company that we're bringing and investing here in Arkansas that will be creating 600 jobs. I will continue to recruit companies for this state, utilize Mike Preston and our great economic development team. I was delighted at the Paris Air Show to announce the expansion of Lockheed Martin in Camden, Arkansas, investing, I think it's $160 million and creating over 200 additional jobs over the next couple of years. Good paying jobs, engineering jobs, that helps us in our defense industry. And that's one of the success stories that we had there in Paris Air Show. The fifth key ingredient, and part of it, is our workforce. We're going to continue to invest in strengthening the job skills of our workforce. Whatever company you talk to, they want to come, but they want to know that they can have the training that's needed, their partnership with a two-year college. What's going to be the pattern? Are we going to be able to make sure that we have the skilled workforce that we need to meet the challenges of our own particular industry? And so we're investing in that. We've made progress. We've expanded the number of career technical centers that are available for our high school students. We want that available across the board because they can get college credit, they can get job skill training, they can have apprenticeships, they can be ready for that workforce, and they can make decisions as to how far they want to go in school, but also what kind of skills they want for their future and be able to provide for their family. One of the challenges in terms of the workforce is not any news to you, but it is, can they pass a drug test? And today we have an initiated act that is being proposed for the next session for November of 2020. They're going to start the signature gathering effort. Now, we've already have medical marijuana that was already announced that the sales was $2.2 million for medical marijuana. And we set up an environment in Arkansas that is careful because we want to treat it like medicine. We want to make sure it's available to the patients. We want to make sure that it's cultivated, that as it is transported, it is protected. It doesn't wind up on the black market. It doesn't wind up for other purposes. But it goes to the patient that needs that medicine. That is the intent of the voters, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. But there's a new initiative now. They want to take that a step further and say we want to have recreational use of marijuana in Arkansas. I believe that would undermine our workforce. It would undermine our capacity in production. I do not believe it is the right direction to go for Arkansas. So I would encourage you, don't sign that petition, don't support that initiative. Let's make sure we get the medicinal marijuana right, and let's hold the line and the distinction at that point. So I started out with some of the challenges of being governor, which I enjoy those challenges because I learn every day. It is a great joy. It's the highest privilege for my wife, Susan, and I to be able to live in the people's house and to represent this state on the national stage and even across the globe. There's a lot of joys that come from being governor. And I don't know about you, but I always remember being in the 5th grade when I was assigned a project. Everybody in the class was assigned a project. And that was pick a state, study that state, and write a report on it. Well, I picked Pennsylvania when I was in the 5th grade in Camden. I'll never forget that. Well, and you always wrote somebody in the state, they write back and they send you some material. So when I became governor, I started getting letters from 5th graders all across the country saying, "Dear Governor Hutchinson, I'm doing a report. I've chosen Arkansas. Would you send me some information on Arkansas?" And remembering my 5th grade experience, I made sure that I signed every one of those letters personally and make sure it got to those 5th graders. I got a letter from Carol from Dallas, 5th grader, wrote me a letter. I signed it, sent it back. She gets it in her home. And she's thinking, when she receives this letter, that everybody else in her class got the same letter from the governor that they wrote. So she goes to her school, and she finds out that nobody else got a letter from the governor, but she did. And then she goes home to her parents and say, "Whenever we have spring break this year, I want to go to Arkansas and meet the governor of Arkansas." And so, sure enough, right in the middle of the legislative session, Jennifer Sicardi, my receptionist, comes in and says, "Governor, there is a young girl out here who's a 5th grader with her parents, and she thinks she wants to see you, and she acts like she's on a mission from God." I brought her in. I set her in the governor's chair. She had that experience that she will never forget in her lifetime. And so being governor is about economic growth. It is about the opportunities to improve education in our state. It's about making tough decisions when you have flooding in our state. But it's also about the joys of impacting lives just through a simple touch that you can make every day and you do every day as Rotarians. Thank you, Rotarians, for what you do to support our community. God bless you.